Hello and welcome back to the Ambassadors of Gaming channel. My name is Michael, and today, instead of doing our traditional news, I've decided instead I'm going to do a more research thorough topic. And this stems from the most recent bout with Tekken 7 coming here to the West, and them removing, I believe his name's Roger Jr., the boxing kangaroo. And I wanted to take a look at animal rights activists, specifically PETA, and the way they've interacted with and dealt with the gaming industry, specifically when it comes to animals. Now, I do not prefer censorship in any way, shape, or form. I understand why they do it. I don't like it, but I understand why they do it. In this case specifically, I'm going to take a look at PETA itself as an organization, along with their interactions in gaming. And then we're, of course, going to take a look at the Tekken 7 issue as well. PETA, the non-profit organization, is well known for their work in animal rights, having an interesting history with the gaming industry. PETA is known to go after organizations and industries that put animals through horrible living conditions, tests, and are specifically built to fight for animal rights, especially those in food farms and commercial use. So coats, leather, that kind of stuff. While I respect their viewpoint and agree about the living conditions that animals used for food and commercial products are dealt with, I do disagree on our ability to eat animals. With those differences aside, I think it's important to take a look at the way PETA has affected the industry and the claims they have made unrelated to the industry to give as much context as possible before I attempt to bash their face in. Now, granted, this did not go as well as I had hoped it would after my research, and I think this is going to be a very fair and level playing field. PETA, for all their work in animal rights, are not as innocent as they portray to be. They've been known to put down thousands of animals every year from across all their shelters. They claim that this is the most humane thing that they can do, as these animals won't be able to function as normal pets, either due to their psychological and emotional traumas, or that they are so injured that there's nothing they can do to help them, and the best thing they can do is put them down. Now, I'm unsure how that fits with the statistics for the animals that they do put down. For example, in 2011, the PETA in Norfolk, Virginia, impounded 1,214 cats and euthanized 1,198 of them. I have no concrete evidence to state that all these animals were unfit to return to a normal life, nor do I have any evidence to say that they were unhealthy and they deserve to be put down. These are just simply the stats I have, thus I will reserve judgment on them for that part. Now, all of that information is fair to criticize PETA on, but I think it is only fair to show both sides of the coin. It would be foolish to claim PETA has never done anything worthwhile for animal rights. So I would like to take a look at an example of PETA doing something good. Alex Pacheco, one of the founders of PETA, went to work at the Institute for Behavioral Research in Silver Springs, Maryland. Pacheco recorded the animals that were being tested on while at the facility. The monkeys at the facility were having their nerves severed to study the rehabilitation of crippled limbs. Pacheco detailed what he had saw done to the monkeys and their injuries. To quote him, "No one bothered to bandage the monkeys' injuries properly on the few occasions when bandages were used at all, and antibiotics were administered only once. No lacerations or self-amputation injuries were ever cleaned." He went on to further explain the horrible conditions the monkeys were subjected to. Pacheco took this evidence to police, and they raided the laboratory, took the monkeys, and charged the doctor with animal cruelty. He was convicted, but they overturned it, and he was allowed to continue his study on the monkeys. Now, PETA may have lost the court case, but they were able to bring to light these injustices towards these animals. And I believe they have the moral high ground there, and I believe that they also showed the public what they were capable of doing. Now to talk about the aspect you actually came here for, gaming, and how PETA has affected gaming and how they're related to it. There are a few examples of PETA sticking their nose into the gaming industry. I will not go over every example as this video would be unnecessarily long, but I will leave a few on screen and link the articles I used in the description so you are able to investigate them on your own. The earliest example I will use is when Peta was upset over Nintendo giving Mario a Tanuki suit. Peta was upset due to Tanukis being hunted in Japan for their skin and stated that the game promoted the idea of killing Tanukis and wearing their fur. Jeff Bekelar made an interesting point that Peta had not been upset about the other suits Mario has worn, nor the fact that he stomps on turtles and uses their shells for weapons. For years, Mario's done this before they introduced the Tanuki suit. Nintendo's response to this statement was, "The different forms that Mario takes make no statement beyond the games themselves." End quote. Because no person rationally would look at Mario wearing a Tanuki suit and think, I should go out and kill a Tanuki and skin it to wear it. Probably the most famous instance of when Peta pissed off gamers was when they parodied Pokemon. To summarize Peta's game about Pokemon, it was the reverse rules. They reversed the roles of the trainer and the Pokemon. So Pokemon were beating the shit out of trainers and escaping from their trainers so they were not forced to fight. Funny enough, I actually don't mind the idea of Pokemon breaking away from their trainers. It would actually make a very interesting game. However, showing violence towards humans, I think, takes it one step too far. Pokemon has never been a game intended to be about rounding up animals and using them to fight for our amusement. The goal has always been to explain that Pokemon are like pets and that those pets protect you from wild Pokemon, and they don't want their tamer to get hurt. This is very similar to how your dog would protect you from an invader. As for gym battles and trainer fights, I'm unable to give a solid answer, as everything I was able to find is purely a speculation that Pokemon enjoy battling and training. Thus, I can't fairly prove my point, and I believe Peta has this round. The next example is Farming Simulator 17. Peta asked the developers to include footage of pigs being slaughtered and the acts that generally happen on meat farms. Peta's statement on the matter was, quote, "To simulate the farming industry accurately, Farming 17 would need to show all aspects of pig farming, including what happens to pigs when they're sent to slaughter," end quote. From what I was able to find, that as the farmer, the player themselves never actually kill any animals, at least purposely. I don't believe the game includes slaughterhouses. Instead, you raise the animals and you sell them. It's never implied that you yourself raise the animals and then murder them to get food and then sell the food. One could presume that the animals are sent to slaughter, but it does not look to be implied by the game itself. I think if you want to see aspects of pigs being brutalized, you should look to horror games, as it's a common trope. Pigs are a popular source of jump scares. Until Dawn Rush of Blood, for example, uses them throughout the entire first level. And even though these pigs are represented through a drug-induced trip, it's still very graphic, but they didn't mention anything about that. Granted, I know Peta doesn't have time to bitch about everything, so I understand that as well. The latest example is the Tekken 7 issue. Interestingly, Peta actually had nothing to do with this. This was instead done by animal rights activists in the West and them voicing their opinions on the game. And simply put, they do not want to see a kangaroo fight a human being, or a human being fighting a kangaroo. To summarize Peta's quote, "Peta trusts in players' ability to understand that the kangaroo in Tekken 7 wasn't real, so no animal was in danger. The outcry over even virtual violence toward a kangaroo shows that today's public is opposed to cruelty to animals," unquote. This was indeed the will of the people, as it seems. During an interview with the VG 24/7, director of Tekken, Katsuhiro Harada, said, quote, "There was a video of a man's dog being deadlocked by a kangaroo, and he punched it in the face. It turned into a big problem. People were complaining about him punching a kangaroo. It seems that in the last few years, there's a lot more animal activists. Even though they probably wouldn't play our game, they would still hear about that. about a kangaroo in our game being punched and would complain about it. End quote. What I read from this company is that they would rather take the kangaroo out and just accept the fact that they are going to deal with backlash if they leave it in. And that's from people who might not even play their game. So they affect their bottom line, not at all. So instead they took the opinions of other people that have nothing to do with their demographic and decided to change the game and serve it to their demographic. And I don't necessarily think that is the best way to go about doing it, and I will further explain. I understand everyone has their own agendas, but a kangaroo is more than capable of beating a human being into a pulp. Each kangaroo leg is capable of hitting with the strength of a heavyweight boxer, and their talons are sharp enough to rip open an opponent's stomach, their abdomen, spill their guts out. My point is that kangaroos are more than capable of fighting a human being and winning. Kuma the bear, the character in Tekken, was left in due to it obviously being able to fight a human being and win. Animal rights activists were not upset about the bear, at least from what I read. They left it in. So what is my point? My point is that just because you don't like something in a game, those feelings don't give you the right to direct how it is done. Now, if the character was something like a house cat, then I would understand where you're coming from. I would still disagree, as I think it's important for art mediums to stay the way that their creators originally intended them to be. Now, this is all of the information, screenshots, that I've collected over the past day or so throughout my research, and I feel I've compiled it in a reasonable manner, and I have made my case. Though, I think it is important for us to discuss, both as people, members of society, and gamers, that we actually discuss these things and decide, what should we do about it. I stand on the side of, if you don't necessarily like something, then don't support it. Don't give them money. Because if you give them no money, they will not keep making their product. It's just that simple. Money makes the world go around. We all know that. I would like to ask you all to, take the time, do some research, and, discuss with each other, what you think about this issue. As I've stated, Peta's not all bad, but they're not all good, as most of us are. We make mistakes, we do wrong things, and there's other things we do that are great and good. We've done that here on this channel. I've done that in my personal life, so I can't cast judgment. So that is all I have for today for this week. We should be returning to our normal sort of scheduling next week, and we should come back with a regular news episode. I do look forward to doing some more types of videos like these, more in-depth, researched, sort of topical debates. If this is something that would interest you, please let me know in the comments. I do read the comments, I do look through them, I do check them to see what people are saying when we do get reactions. But until then, I'm Mikemyballs. This is the Ambassadors of Gaming, and I'll see you next week.